Hello and welcome back. In part 2 of this watercolor figure sketching demo, I'm going to do a 10-minute pose. In part 1, I did 3 5-minute poses. So if you want to see those, definitely make sure to check out part 1. And if you want to follow along, the poses can be found on the drawthis.com YouTube channel. And this was actually recorded live during one of their streams. So if you want to join their live drawing stream, check them out on their Facebook page as well, drawthis.com. It's a wonderful thing they're doing. Free live drawing every Friday. All right, so let's get into the drawing here. So if you've been following my work for any bit of time, you know that I draw a figure almost exactly the same every time, like I mentioned in part 1. It's a very systematic thing that I do, methodical thing. Start with a gesture and then do 2D shapes. That's what you're seeing here. It's very graphic, shape, 2D kind of thing. It's part of the West Coast philosophy that I have. I learned this from the West Coast version of the Riley method. This part, and then once I have 2D, I go into construction. That's kind of what you're seeing here, is a little bit of construction. Now, because this is a watercolor demo, my goal is to have let the watercolor do most of the construction. Actually, let the watercolor describe the form, because watercolor, has such very fast coverage. So in a lot of ways, I'm kind of doing a shorthand lay-in. We're really going to almost skip the construction, which you can if you have enough experience and knowledge, if you can draw from what you know. Of course, I have a ton of experience at doing this, so I can do that. I know exactly what's going on there. I can draw this from memory. So anyway, I'm going to keep the lay-in simple and let the watercolor do the work. And here you can see I'm adding a little bit of detail. Basically, the goal is to give myself enough information so that I can move on to the next stage, which is the watercolor wash. Once again, is give myself enough information so I can move on to the next stage. And in this case, it's the watercolor wash. So for time poses, you don't have a lot of time. This is 10 minutes. The key to a successful time pose is give yourself enough information. Now, what does that mean? That means that you have to put enough marks down that communicate clearly. So your marks have to be very clear. And one way to do that is to draw more from what you know than what you see. So this is sort of, again, part of the West Coast America, California philosophy, is that we draw from what we know. So that means you have to bring a lot of knowledge to the table. But that's okay. It just gives you an excuse to do your homework, do your studies, learn about the figure and anatomy and proportion and things. Do figure studies from photo and then, or anatomy books and things like that. Then come back to the life drawing with your new knowledge. That's how I learn, and I think it's a very effective way to learn. And that's one thing I always encourage students to do. Okay, here we go. Watercolor time. This is what this entire video was about. This whole process is about. It's really getting to the wash. Now, of course, this is an advanced way to work. Being this fast and efficient and minimal is a very advanced way to work. So if in 10 minutes you don't even, if you can only get the torso done, that is an accomplishment if it's done well. So don't think, I have to. In 10 minutes, I have to get the exact results Chris has. No, please don't look at this video that way. This is just quickly a demonstration of my techniques. If you're new to figure drawing, take your time, my friends. Take your time. It's better to take a lot of time and do it well than to be fast and do it terrible, obviously, right? Okay, so here you can see I'm putting the tone down. Now, the shadow shape is very clear. Now, if you remember the other poses, if you look at the reference from the other poses, the shadows weren't that dark. But this one, the shadow is nice and dark. There's a clear border. So that's very cool. And it allows me to put down a very clear shadow shape. Okay, so now I have a little bit of time. I'm going to come back into the light side. So add a little bit more color into the figure using some burnt sienna, just like before. You know, this is a very gray washes now because I only have 10 minutes, for God's sake. I can't do full color rendering. But this is, it's a sketch style, and it's a very incorrect way to do watercolor. Traditionally, watercolor, you go very, very light. But, this is just me having fun. This is a technique that I sort of use, non-traditional, but by any means. So I really don't encourage, if you're new to watercolor, to be honest, I wouldn't really encourage you working this way until you become more familiar with the medium. Okay, so what I'm doing is adding a little bit of color. And I'm also passing my brush over the core shadow where light and shadow meet. That's the core shadow. So that's slightly darkening that area, is doubling up the tone there. Now what I'm doing is going into the light and adding yellow ochre. And what this does is it not only adds beautiful color variation, which makes the color feel more real and, quote, natural, but it defines the color of the light. It defines the color of the light. And now it allows me to really, define the color of the shadow, which is still gray. Here I'm adding alizarin crimson, which is a red. It's a bluish red. And this is just to add more blood. It'll suggest blood-rich areas like the knees and things. Just basically making color a little bit more rich. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a little bit strategic here and put this red wash in a few areas, areas that receive a lot of blood. So like the knees there, the face, obviously, and areas that receive, get some suntan, like his chest, you'll see in a minute. So now, I basically have a full limited palette, the full primaries, red, yellow, and blue, all on the one painting. So it's a very simple way to use red, yellow, blue. I really enjoy this palette. I learned a lot of my color sketching from Nathan Fowkes, who's one of the world's best watercolorists, in my opinion. And so this is going back into the lights, washing some pinks in there to give my color a rich color variation. That's one thing that makes color look more natural, is variation. If when color stays the same temperature throughout the entire figure or shape, it just looks very flat. So now we have yellow, cool, yellow brown, reddish brown, and bluish brown. So that's what making the color pop right now. Okay, here's a look at the finished sketch. Now, after the time ran out, I added a little bit more color to it using the alizarin crimson. As you can see, I put it over the chest, and that's one way, one thing I do to suggest sunburn is to put a little bit of pink at the chest and also a little bit more at the knees and on his face as well. It's a similar technique to the face. You put pinks on the nose and cheeks to create that red blush. Okay, that's the end of this video. I want to thank you for watching. If you like this video and if you haven't already, make sure to sign up for my free newsletter. Newsletter subscribers will get access to exclusive content like this. So you'll get first access to videos and other free content, handouts, reference, and a whole lot more. And all you have to do is go to my website, www.drawwithchris.com, and enter your email, and you'll be good to go. And if you've been reading the newsletter for a while, definitely leave a comment below. Let me know what you'd want to see next, the kind of content you'd like to see next. Thank you for all of those who wrote to me and gave me suggestions for content. I really appreciate it. And I would look forward to seeing you in the next video and in the next newsletter. So until next time, get out there, keep drawing, and build up your mileage. Bye for now.